Pat yourself on the back because you are right here, right now, for a reason. Welcome to the On Purpose podcast, where together we will empower ourselves and others to live lives with more passion and purpose. How you doing this morning, Jared?
Man, I feel good. Quite honestly, I feel a little under the weather maybe. I don't know.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
You got the vid?
I don't think so. I think it's just a little cold and flu season. But, yeah, I'm good, man. Congratulations on your win Saturday night. That was a lot of fun to be part of that. And to see you out there, that was a tough fight. There's amazing support from all the people that follow you and that showed up. It was a very special night, man. So I hope you're reflecting on that and just enjoying that moment.
I get goosebumps when I hear the Ali, in the third round, the chant. Apparently Amber Bigger started that. So shout out to Amber for starting that chant in my fight.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah, we had a good crowd up there for all you guys.
Yeah.
And it was just nice to be in an environment that was mask-free and people were just hanging out, enjoying each other's company.
Yeah.
And there were fist fights in the background.
Yeah, I had a blast. Great times.
Yeah, so what's next for you?
You know, I'm not too focused on the next step right now. I'm really just enjoying the present moment. I'm excited to see the full fight. I haven't even got to see the full fight yet, just some highlights and see where it goes. I mean, I'm highly confident that I'll be doing another MMA fight. I just don't know when.
Yeah.
Probably in the summer. We'll see.
Yeah, you got some trips coming up, and
yeah,
I'm excited that it's finally February. That means one less month of winter we have to get through.
Yes, me too.
Even though it hasn't been bad, like we haven't had hardly any snow, and it hasn't really been that cold here.
It hasn't been too bad, but there are those days I'm scraping my windshield and I'm like, why did I move here?
I just love shorts and flip-flop season. I look forward to that all the time.
Same. So what we got going on today, Mr. Jared?
I thought we would share, both you and I think, have put a lot of time into, like, purposeful time really working on this topic, and I think it's something we can share with our community to help as we're still transitioning around, and that is, how do you find peace during turmoil, right? And share with them a couple things that each of us do, because I think that is one of our strengths, is kind of bringing some like peaceful energy to things and just reflecting on really what's important with that.
Oh, I'm excited for this. I have a very recent experience with this.
Yeah, you want to kick it off or what?
Sure. So what's the first question you got for us?
How do you find peace, or what practices do you even know what peace is, I guess, is probably my first question, because I think that's the foundation. If people don't know what peace looks like in their life,
yeah,
it's a moving target.
Right.
So if you could say, like, on your ultimate peaceful day, like, how do you know you've achieved that? Like, what is it you look for?
So for me, peace it doesn't look like anything or anything that I look for. It's more of a feeling. It's very internal. It's an emotion for me. And what I got excited about was the fact that I really found peace before the fight.
Yep.
And I felt so calm, so much calmer than with my debut. And I spent some time literally meditating backstage on the mat, just sitting down, connecting with the breath. Breath is huge.
Yep.
In and out of the cage, so I found myself too in the cage during the fight, of like catching my breath, finding my breath. I think breath is a huge part of finding peace, controlling your breath, taking deep breaths.
Right.
But for me, it's definitely an emotion that's very attached to the breath, breathing deeply, and it's a calm kind of stillness, no matter what's going on around you. I mean, there was a moment before the fight where I closed my eyes and there's a lot of commotion, there's fights going on, but I was totally at peace, knowing that I was about to go into war in the cage.
Yeah.
And I think that I think that empowered me while I was in there. You know, it was funny. I had my family and some friends saying, dude, like, you were making some crazy ass faces, like, once you got in the cage and you were like ready to go. I was like, yeah. And you know what? I think what happened is that I was so calm and so at peace before and walking up to it that once I got in there, I was like, all right, I need to kind of get some of this fierceness out, you know, and feel into that a little bit more. But yeah, for me, it's all internal. It's an emotion of calm stillness, and it's definitely connected to the breath. If you're taking long, deep, slow breaths, more than likely what's going to result is feelings and emotions of peace.
Yeah, that's good. And I think for me, I've learned to measure my peace. And so I think peace is twofold, right? One is what you feel, and two is what you emit. But I think they are in synchronization. I can't be super scattered inside, my mind's racing, and show up and emit calmness to you. You'll sense that, right? Like that's that, like going back to our vibration episodes. So for me, I know I've had a peaceful day, or I'm in a peaceful moment when I'm talking to you and the only thoughts I have are about us. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's something I learned through this process. And I think I told you, as I started dealing with some anxiety and stuff that I'd never felt before in my life, was I knew that was taking place when my mind was racing and whatever I was doing was no longer part of my thoughts. My thoughts were everywhere but where I was. Yeah. And so that's how I take inventory, if you will, or accountability is, if I'm here talking to you, but I'm thinking of this, and I know I'm not being at peace. So then I go to exactly what you talk about. How do I bring myself back? And that's that breath control.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, you know, I like box breathing. I know there's a ton of different techniques, but, you know, you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. And when you start doing that, then what I like about that is when I start thinking about counting my breathing, the only place I can go is right here. Mm-hmm. Because now my whole focus is on breathe in, hold for 4, out for 4. Which then puts me right back. So I've gotten a lot better at recognizing when I'm being uneasy or I'm starting down that path to cut it off quicker. But that came with experience, because before it was getting so far out that it was like a panic attack.
Yeah.
You know, but I think that's how I do, and that's how I try to keep myself honest with that.
Yeah, I like that analogy of peace being presence. Right, because when you're, like you were saying, when you're scatterbrained like that, that's not that calm peace.
It's not, and you sense it, right? Like, you know, the minute somebody walks in a room, if they're focused on what's taking place here, or they're already down the road in their car going to get dinner, you know what I mean? You know that.
Yeah.
And for me, that's really, it's kind of opposite of what I was taught most of my life, of the importance of multitasking. To be able to do so many things at once,
right,
actually is the opposite of being at peace in the moment. You know, but we put such a priority on being able to do so many things at once that you weren't really there.
Yeah. And a lot of us spend so much time thinking about the past or the future and don't spend as much time being really conscious of the present moment. Even when it's something that we're doing, we always need some sort of distraction, right? Like eating lunch. Like, when's the last time you ate lunch alone with no TV, no phone, no nothing, and we're really just being in the moment having a meal?
Yeah.
Right? It's rare. I don't do it that. I usually have something turned on. Yeah. And that's just an example of something that we do every day, consume food. It's hard for a lot of us to be just still and very, very present and aware. I think I talked about this in an episode. There's a study that put a bunch of college students in a room for 10
buzzer.
minutes. Yeah, with just a button that would electrocute you.
Yeah.
It would give you a little shock. And it was like 92% of people couldn't sit in the room for 10 minutes in total silence by themselves. They wanted to feel something, so 90-something% of them just shocked themselves to feel something.
Yeah.
That's how busy our minds are, our monkey brains are, that we're always going. So it can be hard for a lot of us to go about our day in complete peace.
So for me, I know I'm heading to a place that's opposite of where I want to be when my thoughts start going fast. So that's my cue to start focusing on breathing and slow everything back down. So I encourage like our community, like start taking note. And I just shared this with somebody the other day that was struggling with something, and she's like, well, it just hit me like right at this moment. So I was like, well, let's maybe keep a journal nearby. And when you get these feelings, like write down like what's taking place to help trigger that or cause that. You know, because I do think it's easy to want to be peaceful. It's easy to want to be present, but sometimes it's hard to do.
Yeah.
So knowing what's pulling you away and being able to get it back, for me, breathing is huge. But then you got to practice it, right? So that's one of my other things for me, it being at peace, is I'm a much more peaceful person when I incorporate meditation.
For sure.
You know, and not whether it's a guided meditation or just an insight timer like you showed me to use. Anything where I just get to sit, just like you were saying, for a few minutes and just be alone with thoughts.
Yeah. It's huge. It's a game changer.
But why do you think that creates that space for you? Like, why do you feel like on days you don't meditate that it's so easy to be distracted? Like, what is it that you're looking for? What is it that you get from that? Can you put that in words?
That I get from meditation?
Yeah, that you crave.
Mm-hmm.
Because so many people are like, oh, dude, sitting there for 10 minutes, like I could be doing so many other things.
Yeah.
Like, how is it you know it should be a priority?
It's become a lot more valuable to me because of, it's just like anything, right? The more you practice it, the more effective you're going to be at it. And it's become a lot more valuable to me because of how effective the meditation practice can be in helping me focus and stay present throughout the day. Some days, I mean, even the meditation's hard and I'll know and I'll get up and be like, ooh, my mind is going today. You know, it was hard for me to stay focused even in my meditation. In my world and in most of our worlds, there's so many distractions and things pulling for our attention that some days during the workday, I feel like I'm getting pulled everywhere in so many different directions. You know, a text message pops up, an email pops up, I'm working on a task, somebody calls. It's so many different things to where my mind is going a million miles per hour. They say the average person has 60,000 thoughts a day. So for some of us that, you know, have an above average mind as far as you're always thinking about things, that's more than 60,000 thoughts in a day. And what meditation does is helps me filter and focus my mind on thoughts and beliefs that I want more of in my life. You know, so instead of, and I also use other tools aside from meditation to try and minimize the amount of distractions and the amount of things that are pulling me in different directions, like turning off notifications on my phone, you know, not checking my email throughout the day, only looking at my email when I get in the office and then when I leave, you know, not just always having all the notifications. I think that's huge.
Yeah.
To turn those off. But yeah, meditation helps bring better focus and filter to the mind going throughout the day. And that enables me to be more present in interactions and in tasks.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great way of saying it. It's a reminder to be present.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's well said. So for me, meditation helps with peace. And then, like, we've talked about this in so many different episodes, but just starting my day with gratitude.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's hard to be upset at the world or upset at life when you frame your day by being thankful for what you already have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like even the simple things like today I was very thankful to get up and just turn on a faucet and have fresh, cold, clean drinking water.
Yeah.
I didn't have to carry it anywhere. I didn't have to treat it. You know, I was thankful to have heat in the house. And I think so many times we overlook the basic things and we just take for granted. But if we really are grateful for what we have, that's the foundation for peace, is gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because if I'm envious, if I'm anxious, if I'm always wanting to get the next thing, it's hard to be real peaceful.
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't have goals and want to achieve, but I think you can do both. I think you can be a high performer and be at peace with the process.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the best way to be, a peaceful achiever working towards your goals in peace. Because I've spent many years of this strong, strong desire.
Yeah.
In a very desireful state of I want more, I need more, I want this. And it's not a peaceful way of being, of having deep desire like that.
No.
And like you said, envy, jealousy, and now, meditation and gratitude have been huge tools that have really enabled me to have goals, but know that I'll be at peace whether or not I achieve them, and loving the process of trying to achieve them. Being at peace and moving forward, and just being at peace with life, of knowing that, every day is a gift. There's so much to get out of every day. As you're working towards your goals, you can be there and not be so attached to outcomes. Be more attached to the feelings.
Yeah.
And it's a great feeling to be at peace.
And the process and the experience. That's what I was sharing a couple days ago is with my youngest daughter. She got a job that it's a cool little job, working at a farm, dealing with puppies and stuff. So she likes that. And the lady was like, well, why don't you let me pay for dog groomer school and you can come groom dogs? And I asked her, like, what do you think? She's like, I'm not really sure I want to do that for my life. And I was like, see, that is the example to me of when you get things going in motion, it opens up other opportunities. It doesn't necessarily mean like every opportunity is going to be what you want, but the fact that you're in motion, right, and that we're setting goals and we're setting dreams is peaceful in itself, right, because you are now moving forward. I think people have a hard time finding peace when they're sitting idle. Right? When you sit idle and you no longer have goals, or you're no longer moving in a direction, you're kind of what I call rudderless. Right? Like you're still a boat and you're still on the water, but you're subject to the tides. Right? Yeah. You're subject to the media tide, politics tide. What I was trying to explain to my daughter Taya is, when you sit just saying, I this is my dream job and I want all my jobs to come, and this is what I want to do. Well, you don't control if it's open or not, if you're qualified or not. But when you just start doing things, it opens up other doors.
Yeah.
And for me, that's critical is that we got to be in motion. And that's part of how I find peace, right? Is I have gratitude, I like to meditate, and I always stay in motion. Whether it's physical movement, exercise, mental motion, learning, reading, learning new stuff from you or whoever I'm around, experiences. Because that's who we're supposed to be, right? Like we are curious by nature. And I think for a lot of us, we miss out that motion side, that learning side, which is a huge component of peace. Mm-hmm. Right? Like my mind is at peace when it's challenged. My mind is at peace when I read something, I learn something I had no idea about. For me, the opposite is true. My mind gets restless watching television.
Yeah.
My mind gets restless knowing I should be doing something, but I don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, progress is happiness, right? If you're not progressing in any aspect of your life, that's where depression and sadness comes, is when you're rudderless, like you said. I like that analogy of being pulled by the tides, because if you're not moving in any direction, if you're not making progress in areas of your life, then you're just going to be pulled wherever the tide takes you. And I've learned firsthand, like good example, after my debut fight, I went to an all-inclusive in Mexico, and I indulged in the sensual pleasures of drinking, eating a lot of food, not exercising for like a week. straight. And I thought it was going to make me so happy. And it, maybe it did at the peak of my buzz, drinking pina coladas.
Yeah.
But after that week was over, I was like depressed, dude.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I feel like shit. My body physically, I've been drinking, eating so much food, not exercising, just laying around, not making any progress in anything, just like enjoying small pleasures, which again is good in moderation.
Yeah.
But like a week binge like that, it made me just realize how when that's your life, when you're just living for the simple pleasures, when you're drinking every night, whatever it is, it leads to those negative emotions, sadness, depression, anger, people that blame everyone else for the shittiness that happens in the world, and you're angry because you're not progressing.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it comes down to the ritual too, right? And the habits. Like when you go, for that example, when you go through a week of indulgence, that's the complete opposite of the week prior, which was extreme discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And it throws off that routine. And I think that's, to me, a huge piece of this is to really be at peace. You have to have some level of certainty, right? To be peaceful, I have to know certain things. I don't know what the world's going to throw at me tomorrow. I don't know what decisions will be made that I agree with or don't agree with. But I do know that if I get up and I start my day by being grateful for whatever is surrounding me, and then I can meditate and control my breathing and check back in to make sure my mind's not racing, and that my mind knows I'm in charge of it, that it's not just this random. And then I get movement. That ritual is peaceful in itself. And it's all I control, right? And I think knowing that you control part of your day allows you to go and accept the parts you don't control in a much more easygoing manner, instead of trying to forcefully control all that you can, even when it's beyond your control, or being upset that there's so much you don't control, right? Because none of us, we're all subject to a variety of things in life. But the people I enjoy being around and that I learn the most from are the ones that have a really good separation of, hey, dude, I control this. I don't control any of that. So I'm not even going to put my energy to trying to control that.
Right.
I'm going to laugh when it comes by and let it go. Mm-hmm. But that's part of doing it routinely.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing why it's important for you. And I really challenge our community members to really sit and think about what does peace look like for them, and how do they know if they're being peaceful? Because I think a lot of people actually probably think they're peaceful people, but they're probably not. Or at times I thought I'm peaceful, and then I come around and my energy's so scattered that you feel it.
Mm-hmm.
But if we don't know that, right? If I don't know when my thoughts start racing, it's time for me to slow things down. And how do I do that? It's easy to drift off course.
So how do we identify activities that can help move us towards our peace?
I think everybody's an individual, and not everything's going to work, and it's okay. You don't have to resonate with, I don't have to resonate with everything that you believe or that you like. But I think for me is knowing the triggers of what's leading me astray. So that as soon as I start feeling, I can intervene quicker than letting it go and losing a whole day or a week.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's huge, right? Is knowing what's coming.
Yeah.
And then two, committing to your daily activities. I truly believe if our community does gratitude and some form of meditation, and then some sort of physical movement every day, coupled with some learning, you have a great recipe to have great days.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine that you're not going to have, for the most part, a pretty peaceful and awesome day if you meditate, practice gratitude, and move the body.
And you control all those.
Yep.
Right? I don't care how much money you have or don't have. You don't need a penny for that. You don't need the fanciest house in town or the smallest house in town. It doesn't matter. You're in control of that. And I think that is a huge component, is realizing and taking ownership of what you do control and not playing the blame game for what you don't control.
Yeah. Yeah, taking responsibility is big.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have some activities that can help you move towards peace, and these are, don't just take Jared and I's word for it. I mean, this is tried and true. Meditation is tried and true over, centuries, thousands of years.
Yeah.
Masters of life have practiced meditation, have practiced gratitude, have practiced exercises, and it's scientifically proven too that there are processes in the body that happen after you exercise the cardiovascular system, after you calm the mind through meditation, through breath, through gratitude. Things happen in your brain that make you feel better, make you feel at peace. So now that we have some of these activities, how do we measure our peace, and what can we do to sustain it?
That's good. For me, I have a simple measurement that I write in my journal every morning, and that is that I seek peace over being right, and that whoever I'm talking to should feel like they're the most important person in that moment.
Mm.
If I can do those two things, I'm going to have a very good day.
I like that.
Right, and think about it, I completely control both those. There's no other variable that affects my ability to deliver on those.
Mm-hmm.
Seeking peace over being right, and that you should feel like you're the most important person in that moment because we're interacting.
Yeah.
And that's for me has been a recent development that, over the course of this year with all the challenges we faced, I really put time and thought into like, okay, how do I know if I'm being my best me? And it really comes down to those two questions. Am I engaged in discussion and writing and stuff to be right or to be peace, to bring peace?
Mm.
And when we're interacting, am I interacting with you, or am I interacting with you thinking of 10 other things down the road?
Right.
And because I think we all have experience when when you're talking to somebody and they're already gone from that conversation.
Yeah.
And when they're like, oh, dude, that was a good conversation. And it doesn't have to be any longer. Usually the conversation is about the exact same length.
Mm-hmm.
But the feeling you're left with is so much more impactful.
Right. That's good stuff.
What do you think?
For me, how I measure my peace is my mind. Just, like after the fight, there were moments where I was at peace, but also where my mind was racing, replaying it in my head, and even Courtney would be like, "What are you thinking about?" And I was thinking back on the fight and not really being at peace. So really just how racy my mind is, and then how to sustain it is really just the consistency in the activities that we were talking about. We can use any analogy of training for anything. Like, let's use strength. If you're consistent in the gym, lifting the weights, then you're going to sustain your strength.
Yeah.
You're going to have your strength. Same thing with the peace, Look at when we think of the most peaceful people in the world, who do you think of? You think of monks, right? Buddhist monks or priests. And these people are doing that day in, day out, praying, meditating. That's their training. So just like with anything, consistency over time is the true key to success. So if you're consistent over time, if you're meditating, practicing gratitude, and moving the body every day, you're going to have a peaceful life. Most of your life, you're going to feel at peace no matter what's going on in the world, because you're consistently practicing and executing on activities that bring you peace. So for me, I measure it kind of just by gauging the mind. The breath is also a good one too.
Yeah.
I haven't really been breathing deeply today. And then also, I can sustain it by just staying consistent. I'm pretty proud right now, 69 days in a row on Insight Timer, consecutive
nice.
Meditation. So
yeah.
I'm on a good groove with that, and I feel at peace. That's just my morning ritual. I just boom, wake up, take my morning poop and read, and then hit the altar for some meditation and visualization every morning.
And I think,
and gratitude.
I think for me, man, it comes down to how do I know if I'm there as if I'm challenged every day. If I have some kind of challenge, right, whether it's my read, right, because it's easy to not want to spend 12 minutes meditating or 15 minutes. It's easy to not want to do yoga. It's easy. So sometimes the challenge is just showing up and doing them.
Yep.
So I know if I get to the end of the day, I'm like, okay, I answered my challenges. That's a good day.
Yeah.
And that's a day that if you do that over and over, one, it increases results for you. But two, one of the big things I know and why I find our journey so important is that by you and I going down these roads and these discussions and holding ourselves accountable and really exploring what makes us the best we can be, it allows others to do the same.
100%.
You know, and I could think of no greater crime than to not share this with our community. And to know that somebody out there somewhere needs just a little bit to make today better, but we selfishly didn't share it.
Right.
You know, and I think and I challenge our community to make sure we are the beacons of light for hope and peace and prosperity, and that whatever limits society's put on you or you've put on yourself, realize we can change that with a simple change in our thought process.
100%.
You know, we saw that. We go to your fight of all places, right? And we're having people talk to us about the podcast at fights.
Yeah, that was cool.
And why is that? You know, we took risk. We got out there. We weren't afraid to be judged. You know, we may be idiots. I don't know. But at least we're the best idiots we could be, you know? And I think by doing that, you're inherently going to be more peaceful. Because you are living life on your terms. I think that's settling. It's hard to be peaceful when you know you're not being who you should be.
For sure.
So, man, I'm blessed to be able to share this time with you. We had a little meeting before this episode about, you know, some good things coming up for the podcast and continuing to really challenge our own community, challenge ourselves, and grow this thing to where I think it needs to be and where it's supposed to be in the world.
Yep. I'm excited. Big things to come for the OPP.
So we appreciate you being here. Remember to jump over to Patreon if you're getting any value from these, and support us and help us continue to invest in the product, invest in you, and grow this purposeful community, because I think we can all agree if there's something the world needs more of, it's peaceful people living with some purpose.
Amen to that.
And remember, team, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. We will see you all again next week.